All right, we're live.
Hey,
Hey. How are you doing?
I am great, thank you.
That is so good. I neglected to ask where are you? What city are you in?
I'm in New York, but I'm
Oh,
in what they call upstate New York.
yeah. Okay.
Um, I am in Rockland County.
Okay. I don't know Rockland County, but how's it been in Rockland County for with the COVID and everything?
Well, you know what? I did something. There we go. I lost my picture for a minute. Um,
Okay.
Rockland County, when all of this started, um, it was the county that had like the second highest amount of cases. So when I tell you, like I wouldn't
I
even go
remember
outside of
that.
my own yard,
Hmm.
because I was like, there's not enough information. You
Right.
know, it was New Rochelle, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it was that part of New York, and then it was this part of New York, and
Okay.
I'm like, what is
Uh-huh.
happening?
Right.
But things have gotten, better everywhere. And
Hmm.
I'm not afraid to go to my yard anymore, or even to the
Right.
grocery store, but kind
Right.
of not going anywhere past the grocery store still.
Well,
Yeah.
I was like you because I was not even going outside like on my deck. I was not going to the grocery store. I was just like staying in. And
Yep.
so I had in 11 weeks I had only gone out like to the doctor. And so
Yes.
yeah, so I was starting to lose it. So now I've gone and done a couple walks because like you, I was like, there's not enough information. And it was like,
Yep.
first, don't wear a mask, then wear a mask, don't use gloves, then use gloves. Don't, it's airborne. It's not, so it was too much going on.
Exactly.
But in New York City, we had no deaths yesterday in a 24-hour period. So that's huge because it was
Yeah, it
like,
is.
it was like 700 on, when it first started, like 600, like consistently every day. So I'm very excited. Robin's on. Hey, Robin. And
Hey,
so,
Robin.
so I'm excited about that. And, I feel like now I'm going to, well, New York is supposed to open up parts of it June 8th. So I'm starting to feel better about going out and stuff like
Right.
that
But
now that I know.
things have
Oh,
gotten,
yeah, you
better
just have to
with
you're
that.
turning the volume down. There you go.
Oops.
No,
There we
I do
go.
it all the time actually. There you go. And yeah, so now I'm feeling better about, starting to go out. I have not, gone to the grocery store or anything like that. I'm still getting my deliveries, my groceries delivered. So
Yeah.
anyway, thank you for joining my show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
No, I'm excited to have you and just really kind of like learn about your journey because we've obviously met like in passing and stuff like that and never really had an opportunity to talk. So so we're getting to know each other on Facebook Live in front of everybody. But before I knew you, I knew of you. Because of you've been a staple in the music industry and just done so much. So I really want to just kind of, understand like how did you get your start? Did you always want to be in the music industry? Like how did you get your start?
So, since I was a little kid, I
Mhm.
knew I wanted to work in music, but I didn't even know there was such a thing as a music industry, right?
Right.
I had gotten introduced to artists like Earth, Wind and Fire and Ohio Players and Al Green, and was obsessed with the creation of music and wanting to understand instrumentation and who
Hmm.
played the music, and more than anything, who
Hmm.
put all those pieces together to make it turn into a song. I knew I was
Right.
obsessed with that. So I didn't know I wanted to be in the music business, but I knew I wanted to be a part of the making of music. Um,
Hmm.
and then when I was 18, I was in college and I got an internship with It Showtime at the Apollo.
Hmm.
And I was super excited because I was interning first in the wardrobe department. So
Hmm.
I never got connected with seeing what happened with the talent that came on the show.
Right.
And at one point I got promoted to being a production assistant. That was a huge promotion from
Right.
intern.
Right. Uh-huh.
And it was in the talent department. And at that point I was able to work with getting the talent booked. So now I was working with the labels, and I was
Hmm.
like learning all this information about the labels. Um, and I was working with the artists when they came to do the show. So then I was learning all this stuff about the really strange requests artists have when they're going to them.
Right.
So I learned what a writer was. So what happened was, now that I have this introduction to record labels, and then the artists, and then the TV, so the like kind of publicity and promotion side.
Right.
At that age, I was just sold. My major was nursing, and I secretly, behind my parents' back, changed my major to communications in college.
Oh, wow.
I got in trouble later.
I was just gonna say, did you get in trouble for paying?
I did. But I knew, like, when just seeing all those pieces come together, and it gave me this really terrific understanding too. So here we're a TV show, and at the time, and this is how old I am, at the time, we were the biggest TV show that you could be on if you were a Black artist, aside from like the Tonight Show. And you really weren't going to get to the Tonight Show if you didn't do Showtime at the Apollo. So to see how it worked with the label sort of vying to get their artists on, that taught me a lot too about the business of music.
Right.
And just kind of started my understanding about how like all those pieces work together. So I was just really hooked. I knew I wanted to be in the business.
You know, what's a common theme for, you know, everyone that I know, you know, peers and stuff like that in the music industry is internships. You know, everyone did some kind of internship. And I don't know, I don't know if kids are really doing that anymore the way that, you know, back in the day. I don't want to say back in the day like we're old, because we're very young. But, you know, I don't know if people are doing that in that same way. But internship has really been the key to success for a lot of people.
Yeah, it has. And I'll tell you this. So the answer is no, people aren't doing it the way they used to. My company does. And I do it because of what it did for my career. So every summer, and quite honestly, except for this summer, of course, every summer since I started my own business, I take on 8 interns. And I don't know if people can really understand, taking on 8 interns is hard for one person.
That's a lot.
You have to figure out a working plan for 8 people. Read their reports every night, guide them every day. So I dedicate my summer every year to that, because I think it's so very, very important. And when they come in, they are instantly a part of whatever our working marketing plans are. They're not getting donuts, they're not getting coffee. And that's not to say that they're not ever asked to get coffee or donuts.
Right. They're learning.
Have a real job from the minute they come in the door. And as a result of that, interns who have come into my company, I've got one person who now is leading a department at Sony. I've got another who's leading a department over at Atlantic. I've got another, actually one who was leading a department at Glassnote Records, who was just recently let go. And a lot of us are making a big stink about the way it happened. But bottom line is, my interns are all over these amazing places in the industry with these terrific jobs. And they credit it to the training they got at Heads Music. I credit it to them just being brilliant young people. But I think it just speaks very loudly for the need for us to continue to take internships seriously and give these opportunities, because otherwise a ton of young people, so many young people, they won't get a chance. Most of my interns had applied to intern at a major and didn't get it, because, you know, the majors only have so many. A couple got it and still made the choice to come intern for me, which was pretty amazing to me. But yeah, it's more important now than ever, honestly.
Yeah, I agree, because I think it's so important. You know, I mean, when I was growing up, like you, I always had a love of music, and I would just listen to music. I was never a TV person, so I knew I would always do something in the music industry, because I just had this love for it. But then at the same time, you know, my when I went to college for computer science, which quickly ended, because there's a lot of math. I was like, I don't know what I was thinking, so I changed careers, you know, to marketing and stuff, for my major to marketing. But I think that if you weren't exposed, it's like you're okay, you're going to be, those little positions, but there's so many creative positions that are
Yeah.
out there. And I think it's also important for people to see the behind the scenes people, because
Yeah.
a lot of times people think that they need to be on the mic or they need to be in front of the camera. But, when you see people who are successful like who are behind the scenes and able to do all these amazing things being behind the scenes for people. So I think it's so important for people to get exposure.
I agree. And something
Mhm.
that I think is vital is, you look at young people who oftentimes in the classroom, they get discounted for what their passions are.
Mhm.
So when you have the kid who wants to draw all day and maybe he's not so great at math, and so his outlet is to draw, like
Right.
that's how he withdraws, is to draw,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And just young people who are interested in things that maybe we don't consider like traditional in the sense of what they
Right.
need to learn to get through school.
Exactly. Yeah.
What we
Absolutely.
don't do is, so instead of dismissing those talents and those passions, what I believe we should do is
Mhm.
make them aware of what all of the opportunities are in the world. So that kid who's
Yeah.
sketching all day in your classroom could be the next shoe designer at Nike.
Yes.
There are all
Absolutely.
these opportunities behind the scenes that we're not showing them. I mean, literally millions of jobs
Yeah.
descriptions
Right.
that fit the things that they're passionate about.
Mhm.
And we're not sharing those things with them. We're chastising them because they're making an A in social studies,
Right.
right? And
Absolutely. Yeah.
instead of paying attention to what they love, what they're passionate about, what they're actually good at, and saying, people who are good at this do this 100 jobs out in the world.
Right.
You
Yep.
should be looking at this. Maybe a
Mhm.
trade school is good for you and not college. Maybe an internship here is what you should do after high school. I'd
Mhm.
love to see more of that happening.
Yeah, no, I think that's so important. And I always think about like myself with like my parents, where I was the one that was just always like doing my own thing. But that's because I was entrepreneurial. That's because, I had this creative side where they probably thought, I was kind of, bad or whatever. But it's just I always was like, want to do something more. I want to do this or want to go left and stuff like that. And I think that that's helped in my career. So to your point, maybe college isn't for you. Maybe it's a trade school or maybe it's this or that. It's just understanding that there are other things that can take place based on, someone what someone's passion is, where, you don't always have to be a doctor, a lawyer, those structured traditional,
That's right.
roles. Yeah,
That's right.
absolutely. And so back to Apollo, because Apollo does a really good job with their internship program,
Yeah.
even today. So that's amazing. So after Apollo, where did you go next?
So when I was working short time at the Apollo,
Uh-huh.
I booked this group. Well, here's what's funny. I
Uh-huh.
booked two groups that it changed the course of my career. So let me so
Uh-huh.
let me first tell you about the first one, and then I'm going to tell you about the one that led to my next gig. The
Okay.
first one was the Fugees.
Oh, really?
So there was this point where I
Uh-huh.
wasn't the talent booker, or I shouldn't say that. I was a junior to the talent
Uh-huh.
booker, and we booked Fugees. And at
Mm-hmm.
the time, the artists who played on stage, they couldn't play their instruments. We had the
Mm-hmm.
band, we had Rachel and the crew, and they played, but the artists on stage, they could pretend to play, but they couldn't actually play.
I didn't know that.
So no. So Fugees, Wyclef, who I didn't know them from Adam, but I knew they were the Pulse. They didn't even have like a major hit yet, but
Right.
it's like by that time my ear was to the street, right? I knew they
Yeah.
were the Pulse.
Uh-huh.
Fugees said they wouldn't come on unless they could play, so we
Uh-huh.
weren't going to book them. So then I went to the executive producer and was like, "Listen, they have to come on. We have to have them
Yeah.
on. And these are all
Uh-huh.
the reasons why." And so we ended up booking them, and it ended up being the highest rerun show over and over, like time and time again. That
Wow.
Fuji
Uh-huh.
show ended up being the highest rerun show.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of like helped nudge me along there at Showtime at the Apollo.
Right.
But this next group, it was the same sort of situation. We were booking them, and then um, the head booker found out that they had this song out called Booty Call, and everybody was like, this is not a song for Showtime at the Apollo. We're not booking
Right.
them.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the executive producer again, and keep in mind, I'm a kid. I think I know what I know.
Right.
And I played Joy and Before I Let You Go.
Uh-huh.
And I said, what if they sing these songs? Now, the song the label was pushing was Booty Call. But I was like, what if they play these songs? Could we have them on? And he said yes, and we did. And that was Blackstreet. And that is how I ended up then becoming the manager, eventually becoming the manager for Blackstreet, was off of that booking and knowing and believing in having that group to come on. And I knew the guys before that, but I didn't work with them, not like that. But after that, I got asked to come to Virginia. By then I had been at Showtime at the Apollo for a few years by then. And I was asked to come to Virginia and work with Blackstreet on this album that they were going to be making. But by the time I said yes and took the gig, Teddy Riley had decided to do a Guy reunion album. So I was like stuck trying to figure out, like, what am I doing? Why am I here? And what about the Blackstreet album? And the way things ended up working out, we ended up doing the Blackstreet album instead of the Guy reunion album at that point. And that Blackstreet album that we worked on was the album that contained No Diggity and Don't Leave. And so that stint of my very young career, I'm managing this group. I'm working literally daily with Jimmy Iovine at Interscope, which was a complete joy because that was like getting a bachelor's and a master's degree in the business at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we sold like 10 million records. And so learning the process, the beauty of working with Jimmy at that time, when you walked into Interscope, everybody was like a bullpen, like in the mayor's office in New York. No one had an actual like cordoned off department. Everybody kind of did everything. And that was a very purposeful thing. So if you had your hands in an artist career in publicity, your hands was in that artist career across the board on everything, all of the artists. And that was amazing. The culture at Interscope was beautiful in that way. So I learned radio promo, publicity, PR, marketing strategy, all of it. It was terrific. So that's why I went from Showtime at the Apollo to managing a Grammy award-winning, multi-platinum, all that group. It was,
right.
It was amazing, and it was I have to say, when you learn by fire.
Yeah, absolutely. But I want to pause for a second because let's not skip over Fugees, because that's a big deal. And so was that really a turning point for their career too, since that's like the most watched, rerun? Did that like help them to the next level?
Yeah, it was. And it's funny because like I'll listen, Wyclef will tell the story sometimes, like he'll be in an interview and it's so weird because like he'll tell the story and our versions are a little bit different because in my version, when they came to do the show, the manager introduced Wyclef. He was like, hey, here's the person. She put her job on the line to get y'all on. And Wyclef was like, hey. That's how I very first met Wyclef. And how did he tells a different version of that story. But yes, of course, it was a huge turning point for them because at the time, getting on that show really like opened your platform up as an artist. It put all the eyeballs on you that were necessary to get you now moving to mainstream television. So yeah, it definitely was. So
that's why I didn't want to brush over that, because you were just like, oh yeah, and I booked the Fugees, and then
exactly.
Yeah, have a moment. And so then for Blackstreet and that album, I mean, obviously, that No Diggity is still like, I mean, when you hear those songs from that particular album, they're timeless. They're still hits. People still listen. People still want to hear them at concerts and stuff like that. Those are still like major songs. So how does that feel knowing all this time? Because what year was that when the album came out?
Oh shoot. Did No Diggity, did that album come in 90? I want to say 6 or 8 at the end of the 90s.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here we are, 2020. And
Yes.
so, so how do you feel being part of something like, I mean, really part of both, the Fugees history, and then part of this major moment for Blackstreet, for 2020, for all these, for all these songs to still be, something that people want to hear?
It's a really big deal to me. It's funny sometimes when I'm telling my story, I even leave that stuff out. Because I'm just not thinking about it. But it's huge because we're talking about classics. We're literally at this point talking about songs that are like going to live on forever.
Forever. Right, forever.
Genuine classic songs. You will not go out to a party and not end up dancing to No Diggity and at least one or more of Fugees or Wyclef songs.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's an honor. And when you look at another level at that Blackstreet album, like my name is there, my name is on it. It's not, that can't be erased. Like I did that thing as an A&R and as a manager. And it's a big deal to me because it's what I love to call real music, classic music, music that can't be erased, music that set a tone, continued an amazing genre. So it's an honor, honestly, to have been part of both those things.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that you talked about it today, since you say you forget about it, because I think so many times, I know for me personally, it's like I do things and I move to the next. And so it's only when something comes up, I'm like, oh, I did that. Like I did that. So I'm glad that you are speaking to it, because again, people need to know who's behind some of these moments, because these are huge moments. These are important moments, for the culture, as they say. So it's important for people to know who's behind, some of these moments. So after this, big historic moment with Blackstreet, what was next for you?
Oh gosh. So when that was done, Teddy then decided he was going to do the Guy Reunion album. So he worked on the Guy Reunion album. That kind of caused a riff with Blackstreet.
Are you getting a phone call?
Let's see if I can. There we go. Yeah, that's weird. I'm using the phone that no one calls me on.
Yeah.
It was one of those scam likely calls. I apologize for that.
No problem. It happens.
So at that point, I was consulting. I was doing a bunch of consulting, another like really beautiful step in my career, because I was consulting for MCA, also for DreamWorks, also for Interscope. And that is the point where I got really deep into A&R admin. I finally, so then I got into like the business side of the business heavy and the publishing side of the business heavy. And I didn't understand what that was going to mean for me later on, speaking of what's happening in my career right now. So I got into that. So I was doing a whole bunch of consulting. And then I went to work for my godfather, Butch Lewis, who, God rest his soul, Butch has passed on. But, and that's where I learned business, plain and simple.
Business. I was going to say business.
He had these sayings, spinning plates, being in the trenches. It was very much like sort of like military. Learning the work there. And again, as you go through your career, you don't realize why these steps are happening, why these things are happening. But I learned business when I worked for Butch. So from there, I went to work. Steve Stout was starting translation. He was leaving Universal and he was starting translation. So I was on the very first team at translation, and I was there for 5 years at translation. And when we started, the main client was the S. Carter shoe.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember.
I
God,
do.
and there was all the LeBron campaigns, Chris Brown and Wrigley's, Beyonce's fragrance, Gwen Stefani, the Harajuku camera,
Mm-hmm.
um, Diddy, Sean John cologne. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Some of the most
translation. I'm
incredible
really here. I'm
marketing
really
campaigns
here. Mm-hmm.
ever came out of there. So I was there for 5 years. And it's funny because going there, I thought I was going to be getting out of the music business, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
by
Mm-hmm.
that time I'd been in it for quite a while.
Right.
However, the structure of it, everything we did was about music and around
Absolutely.
music and with
Yeah.
musicians.
Pull you back in. Yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely burned out.
Right.
Let me not tell a lie. Burned
Right.
out and was like, okay, it's time for me to go. It's time for me to break from this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took a stint of just doing like nonprofit work.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did something really interesting and fun. I went to work for Donna Karen.
Okay.
Um, I met her one day. I was in a meeting and I was actually opposing something that she wanted to do. And she walked
Mm-hmm.
in on the meeting and I didn't know she was there. And she heard me saying
Mm-hmm.
all the reasons why we shouldn't do this thing that she wanted to do. And when
Mm-hmm.
she finally made her presence known, she just like walked right up to me. She like literally grabbed my hand in her face and she goes, I want to hire you.
Wow, that's
And I was
amazing.
like,
That's
she was
amazing.
like, what title do
Uh-huh.
you want? How much money do you want? Tell this
Right.
person and you can start tomorrow. Um,
Wow.
so while I was working with Donna, doing some incredible things, because at that point in her career, the only thing she was doing was charity work.
Mm-hmm.
While I was working with her, I get a call to come meet with Doug Morris, who I had met with a couple of times before. Come meet with Doug Morris. And I met with him and he told me he was then at Universal.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I'm going to tell you something and you can't tell anybody this because it's not going to happen for 6 months, but I'm going to be the CEO at Sony. And I want to hire you. And at the time, I didn't know who had suggested me. I'm going to tell you in a minute. I didn't know who
Uh-huh.
suggested me,
Uh-huh.
recommended me to Doug. He said, I want to hire you. These are the reasons I want to hire you. These are the things I want to accomplish. And so I couldn't say yes because I had this contract with Donna and I had made this commitment to Donna.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this, and during all of this, while all of this was happening, I got really sick, like
Mm-hmm.
really very, very sick. So sick that I actually had ended up going to this holistic retreat with this amazing woman who got me better. It
Mm-hmm.
took a while. But while all of this was happening, I was going through some letters of recommendation. And I
Mm-hmm.
came across a letter of recommendation
Mm-hmm.
that Michael Jackson had written for me when I had first tried to go work at Universal.
Mm-hmm.
When Doug was at Universal, we working with Teddy, I had worked with Michael.
Right.
And I had gotten to be A&R on the Invincible album.
Mm-hmm.
So Michael had written this letter for me. And at the time that I asked for the letter, I had asked the woman who was his assistant, would she write it and just have him sign it? And Michael said, no, I want to write it. So
Wow.
he made sure that he was the one that wrote the letter in his words, signed it, and
Uh-huh.
had it sent to me. So here I'm looking through all this stuff. Now, by this time, 10 years later, I forgot that I ever tried to go work for Doug, right?
Right.
I come across the letter and I literally, I come to tears every time I tell the story. The date on the letter, the date that Michael had written the letter
Mm-hmm.
was exactly 10 years from the day that I had the meeting with Doug, where he said he wanted me to come to Sony. And it freaked me out.
Uh-huh.
Like all those lessons about you might not be ready for something when you think you're ready,
Right.
but if it's meant for you,
Absolutely.
it's going to come to you.
Right.
Like
Right.
all
Uh-huh.
of that just came like flooding in.
Right.
It was just crazy. And I just kept staring at the date. And so I called up Jane, Doug's assistant, and I said, I'm going to scan something and fax it to you. I want you to look at the date circled and then look at your calendar and tell Doug I said, yes, I'll do it. And so I became a senior vice president at Sony Music. That job had never existed. They created the job title for me. And so I worked across all 3 labels at the time: Columbia, Epic, RCA. It was an incredible learning experience. It was like getting a doctor's degree in music, learning to manage my own P&L. I had 2 departments that were my department.
Right.
I got to be like an integral part of the marketing of J. Cole's first album, Varner's first album, A$AP Rocky's first album. I had the choice to pick the projects that I thought were the priorities, and those were the ones. And I had a lot of pushback on J. Cole. Insane amount of pushback, so much so that I really had to go toe to toe with the heads of his label then, and almost lose friends.
Wow.
But I have a plaque. It's somewhere around here. Hold on, let me get it.
Yes, please get it.
See this?
Yes.
See it?
Yes.
I love this thing and I keep it out.
Love it.
I dropped the dragon egg. I keep that particular plaque out of all my plaques because that was my biggest lesson so far in the business of meaning what I say and completely standing behind what I believe, no matter who says I'm wrong, no matter how high up they are. Like if in my soul I believe in the music, stand behind it.
Right.
So and that was my last job.
So first of all, that's an amazing story. So you still have the letter that Michael Jackson wrote, of course.
I do. I still have it.
Okay. I'm like, I hope you still have the letter. Is that letter framed
copy, and I made sure I have I have it in my in my photos and stuff.
Okay. So that's amazing. That's an amazing story that Michael Jackson actually wrote that letter. And then secondly, I think that's an important lesson of, standing behind what you believe in and not being afraid to speak up, and even though you were going to lose potential friends and, people might not have been happy with you, look at who J. Cole is today. And had you not made that stand for him, he possibly would not not be who we know of him today, which, highly respected, still sells a lot of records and, just really a great artist. So that's amazing. That's amazing. What was your last job? So that was going to be my next thing. What made you decide to be an entrepreneur? Because being an entrepreneur, as another entrepreneur, it's not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. So what made you decide to be an entrepreneur?
Well, listen, let me start with this very honest thing, and that I know you can relate to. Many times I've ended up thinking I must have been out of my mind because it is not easy. It's not the easier road to take. However, I have no regrets whatsoever. So I was in a meeting with there were only 2 people that were my superiors at the corporate level at Sony, which is incredible for a Black woman.
Right.
And I was in a meeting with one of them, and I was on a rant because in my department, I had only hired women at that point. I only had women in my department, and I literally had someone from every ethnic background in my department. And I was being taken to task about that. They were saying that I was discriminating because I only have women in my department. So I was on a rant, and it was said to me that I really should. They didn't use the word behave, but what they were saying to me is that I needed to behave. That I was a senior vice president, that I was going to become an EVP, an executive vice president one day, and these were the exact words, you're going to make a great life for yourself, honey. And I had said that when I'm the CEO of one of the majors, I was saying what I was going to do.
Right.
And he said, you're going to make a great life for yourself, honey. But no woman's ever going to be the CEO of a major. And in that moment, here's what I knew. I knew he wasn't saying it to hurt my feelings.
Right.
I knew he was telling me something that he believed from his core, because that's the way it was. But because I knew that, I knew I had to do something different. I had to, I maybe wouldn't be the CEO of a major label, but I would be the CEO of a label.
Right.
And even in walking out of there, here's what I knew. I would be the CEO of a label. I would only hire women at my label. And I would do everything in my power to teach as many women all the different jobs inside of the industry that I possibly could. That became my goal that day. And it hasn't changed. And that's what I did. And that's what I built.
So how long have you been in business on your own? When did you start your company?
6 years ago. 6 years. And I started just, a little indie label, one artist. And then the second artist to join my indie was Wyclef. We've got 7 artists now. But since starting the indie, I've also started a publishing company. And I've started a distribution company. And as far as I know, there's only one other woman who heads a distribution company. I don't head a distribution company. I own a distribution company. So we do digital distribution. Right now, we've got 2 artists that are all over the reggae charts on Spotify and Apple Music. One of them just hit 1 million streams on YouTube. And this is all from the distribution side, not even from the label side. So we've managed to put all those pieces together. So there's the label, there's publishing, there's distribution, and there's the management company. So it's basically a music company that has each one of those arms. That's what we put together over the course of this 6 years. And we've accomplished some incredible things. And the thing for me that I think so many people don't understand is when I talk about owning an indie label, I own masters.
Right.
So the way Warner or Sony or Universal owns master rights, I own master rights together with my artists, right? So when somebody wants to license a new song from Wyclef, and it is happening a whole lot right now, and they come to me, and here's what's funny. They all always ask me, they call me to ask me, who do they have to call? And I'm like, it's me. and then they end up being really happy because they don't have a whole lot of bureaucracy to go through. But being the last stop and being the bottom line to license a master is a really big deal for a Black woman in the music business. It's a big deal. Same for publishing. So all the sacrifices, and as hard as it is, it's worth it to me for that ownership. Yeah.
This is okay. So this is the perfect time to bring this up because, as you know, the music industry called for Blackout Tuesday, and which I use that day as a day really for a mental health day because I was very emotional about what everything is going on. But part of that, after that, you saw several artists who were posting about, if you really want to do something, basically give me my masters back and things like that. And so to go back to what you said, like you owning the masters is huge. But what did what were your thoughts when you were seeing, that Blackout Tuesday? Because I had different thoughts about not just the music industry, but like also brands everybody just started posting. And, some people don't have Black people on their executive boards. Some people, have very few Black people in the entire company. And it's more than just a post. So what did you think as someone who, is in this position where you own the masters? What did you think about, the whole Blackout Tuesday and what you saw some of the feedback from the artists?
So there were some things that I was disappointed about.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember the day before asking people, what's the full call to action, because I didn't know, and honestly nobody knew.
Nobody
What's
knew.
the full call to action? What's going to happen? If this reflection and conversation is going on, where's it going on? Who's invited? Is everybody
Mm-hmm.
invited? Is anybody invited? So I felt like there wasn't enough information. But again, the thing came together really quickly, and I'm so proud of the young women who put it together.
Right.
But I was disappointed that there wasn't enough information for everybody to participate the way they were supposed to participate. And
Mm-hmm.
then when I saw people tagging Black Lives Matter, that also made me very nervous, because then what was happening was that hashtag was nothing but a lot of black screens, which kind of
Mm-hmm.
defeats the purpose of using the hashtag. So
Uh-huh.
those things were like a little disconcerting.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
then I started seeing throughout the day, every major, every minor, every company that has anything to do with anything music almost, posting, we stand in solidarity.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to tell you, I know the inner workings of some of these places, and I know
Right.
they don't stand in solidarity with us.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that was disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather them not make that post.
Yep.
I'd rather
Yep.
them not make the post and be okay with, us saying to be silent, is to be a part of the problem,
Mm-hmm.
because I know the inner workings. I know which ones do not have a single person of
Yep.
color on their
Yep.
board.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I couldn't get with a lot of those posts that I was seeing, because I know the
Mm-hmm.
truth. And there's this one music industry gentleman. His name is Chris Anacute.
Mm-hmm.
And when I tell you, he did not let up. He is taking people to task. He is saying, "Show me the money. Show me you
Mm-hmm.
really meant it. Don't just say
Mm-hmm.
the words. Thank you
Yep.
for standing in solidarity, but now prove it." And I'm really proud of him. And I feel like we all have to do that and continue to do that.
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
and finally, not be afraid to yell it loudly.
Mm-hmm.
So now you look at Warner. Warner has seriously stepped up. It looks
They
today
have.
like Sony has seriously stepped up. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so what I'm seeing, those folks that I kind of questioned,
Mm-hmm.
why are you putting these posts up, especially because at one of these majors, I know several people that work inside, and those people were in tears on the day of Blackout Tuesday, because they still had not gotten information from their label as to what the plan was that
Right.
day.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's happening, and then I'm watching these posts go up, and I'm like, mm-mm. You're not even
Mm-hmm.
telling your team, is it okay
Right.
for them to not work today? You're not even telling your
Yep.
team what you're doing today. What are you contributing to their mental health? And what are you doing?
Absolutely.
And so
Absolutely.
now that we're a couple of days in, and I'm seeing these majors show up with their dollars, I feel a bit better.
Mm-hmm.
I'll feel really good when I see where the money goes, and that the money goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And
That's when
and
I'll
not
feel
just
really good.
yeah,
Who's
and
in
not
charge
just
of that?
yeah, I don't know who's in charge of that, but not just the money too, but start seeing that one, they start having Black people on their boards. They start promoting Black people within,
Yeah,
like you can give away money, but what are you really doing to fix inside of these companies?
yeah,
And, because there should no one should be told they can't be the CEO, of a label if they have the skills and the qualifications and all that other stuff. So,
yeah.
it would be good to see some stuff happening inside as well as them stepping up and giving money as well.
I will tell you that when I went to Sony, and listen, I don't know the numbers now. When I went
Right.
to Sony, is it in 2011? I will never forget. There was a review shared with me. It was an analysis that had been done of the lack of diversity inside of Sony music around the world. The percentage of Blacks, the percentage of whites, the percentage of Asians, Latino. And I was told that part of my job was to shake that up, to change that, to the exact word that was used. The exact words were color up the place, Madeline. And I didn't take offense to that, to color up the place. I felt like it meant make the place more diverse.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what was said to me. When I attempted to do it, like I literally got nothing but roadblocks. Frustrating, very frustrating roadblocks.
Yep.
And some of it I'm still not allowed to talk about. Eventually, pretty soon, I'm going to be able to. But it's what they said, and it's not really what they wanted. So what I would love to see each one of these majors finally actually bring on and empower a diversity and inclusion officer. Somebody that they actually allowed to do that job. I would love to see that happen at all three of the majors.
Yeah, no, that would be great, because none of them have any kind of diversity inclusion anything. No. Yeah, no, that would be amazing. That would be amazing.
I've heard that one of them is doing it. I can't say yet, but it wouldn't surprise you to know which one is doing it. So let's see if the others will follow suit.
Yeah. You know, someone who just said that, Crystal, she said, was it Crystal? No, Eliza. She said that you're full of gems and I could listen to you share stories forever. And I agree. I'm like, the time has gone by so fast and I feel like I still have more questions. Like,
how long have we been on?
Almost an hour.
No. Oh, man.
Yes. So one final question. So first of all, you know, now you're a boss, and now you're able to do it the way you want to do it and hire women, and you know, really teach the people you hire everything about the business. Like, what are some of your goals for your company, especially given how things have shifted with COVID? Like, what are you looking forward to for your future, for your company?
So for the company, the big goals are to really, really build out the distribution side. That side for me is super important, because what that means for the young people who are distributing their music through us is their own ownership, because, you know, we don't have ownership in their masters. But so for those young people who are brave enough to make their music and put their music out indie, it means ownership for them. And so, you know, my team is one that we work closely with the people that we decide we're going to distribute, and do as much for them as we can that they normally can't get if they just upload their music to be distributed. So really grow that distribution side. I want to be like a woman-owned distribution company that's just as big as any of the biggest digital distribution companies you can possibly think of. That's important to me, because that'll make me able to employ even more women. Building out the publishing side as well, super important to me, because that's a legacy piece for me. Because when I'm no longer here, my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, there's something that I have built that they will make money on for as long as music is ever played in the world. So that part is important to me as well. But separate of like the building of the business, building out my internship program, the way that I've always done it, into something even bigger, where there's like more knees to give the same kind of like passion and training to these young people and get them out in the world, being able to add value. I want to grow that. That's very, very important to me. Anybody that works with me can tell you how passionate I am about my interns. Like they're my babies. I am their bonus mom. And they don't even get to choose. I let them know that I'm their bonus mom when they come in the door. Fortunately, they don't mind. And, you know, I'm find myself in the middle of the night answering messages of advice to my young people. And I'm super happy to do it. Always happy to do it. Because you know what? It feels like it's building this beautiful network of like-minded people, of compassionate people. So that is very important to me. And one space that we've gone into that we didn't talk about is film and television. I'm producer on a couple of movies now. And so I want to grow that out as well, because that also gives me opportunity to employ more women.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm so glad we did this. I'm so glad we did this.
Thank you. I'm so honored that you would ask me to do it. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And Robin said that you're a suitcase of knowledge. I agree.
I love Robin.
Yes, me too. So at this point, wait, question came for you. Out of all that you've done, what are you most passionate about?
Most passionate about? Oh, gosh, that's hard. You know what? I don't know if this will seem shallow, but listen, Wyclef, here we are with a major artist on a super not major label. And we released a single called Hendrix. And it was, you know, the first big release for me as an indie. And like we woke up one day and that song was at 10 million streams.
That's amazing.
And I'm like, wait, by the way, not only own half of the master, I wrote on the song. I owned half of the publishing.
Okay.
And so just like literally out of everything, when we're talking business and not talking, you know, being a mom and all that, that moment of knowing like I own this. I own this much publishing, I own this master. And by the way, now it's at like over 100 million streams. But at that 10 million stream mark, coming from this little, we call ourselves the little indie that could. It was just monumental, bigger than anything I've done at a major or earning a Grammy, any of that. Like that was a huge moment.
Yes, that is major. That's a major moment for an independent label to be able to do that. So
with an independent label of an all-woman team.
Yep. I'm not surprised about women making that happen. I'm not surprised at that at all. So this was great. Precious, Madeline.
Hi.
And so thank you for doing that. Before we go to Precious with her paparazzi report, can you tell everyone how to follow you?
Oh, yes. So on Instagram, I'm Maddie Says, MADDISAYS, like what Maddie Says goes. Same on Twitter, but there's an underscore between Maddie and Says on Twitter. And then Facebook, Madeline A. Nelson.
Perfect. And I have tagged you on Facebook. So thank you so much. Precious, it's time for your paparazzi report. I selected the music. I've been selecting the music all week, actually. And I think I've been doing a great job. Because normally, Madeline, she has her song. She gives me her song, and I use that song all week. But this week, I feel like I've been kind of killing it. So I'm gonna... You already know. Anything good. Yes, freedom. I've been trying to play songs around that theme all week because it's been a rough week. So what do you have for us today, Precious?
Well, hello, and what a wonderful show today, and what a great life that you have lived. I will tell you quickly before I get into my news that I'm telling you the only thing, she took away everything you said, but probably the thing that made Yvonne the most excited is your letter from Michael Jackson. You know, I'm sure She is the Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson.
Like, do you still have it? Because I'm like, if you could send her a copy of it, she would.
I'm gonna send it. I'll send it to you.
Yes, yes.
She will frame it and put it in her house. It's not even, you know, that's how much I love
send it.
I'll have to tell my Michael Jackson story one day. It's not as great as yours, Madeline. But yes, I was like, wait, did you say Michael Jackson?
You still have that letter? I knew it. As soon as you said it, I was like, oh, Yvonne's in. All right. Well, let me get going because I know we got to wrap up quickly. Today is Friday. Well, welcome to Peace Paparazzi Report on Friday, June 5th, day 76,782 of the quarantine. First, we want to just take a moment and wish we want to celebrate the life of Breonna Taylor, as today would have been her 27th birthday. And we are still looking for justice and for those officers to be arrested for her death. And so we want to celebrate her today for her birthday. Also in celebration, we want to celebrate Gianna Bryant, Kobe and Vanessa's daughter, who passed away in the tragic helicopter accident. Today would have been her 8th grade graduation. And so our prayers to continue for all of these families. Reddit co-founder Alexis Ohanian, who is also married to Serena Williams, and her husband and child's dad. He is a co-founder of Reddit, which he founded 15 years ago in San Francisco. He has just announced that he is stepping down from the board, and he urges his colleagues to replace him with a Black candidate. On top of that, he is also donating $1 million to Colin Kaepernick's Know Your Rights Foundation. So shout out to him for his efforts. And we also want to say, because he continues to be the MVP of the quarantine and of life right now, Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey has.
I love Jack Dorsey.
Yeah, we love Jack Dorsey. He is invited to the barbecue. He's invited to the barbecue, and we are going to fix him a plate. And it's a plate, absolutely. Yeah. And he has donated $3 million to Colin Kaepernick's campaign as well. So shouts out to him for he's done amazing things throughout this entire process. Nike has announced a $40 million commitment to support Black communities. Thank you, Nike, as you should, because we have definitely donated. We have supported over $400 million to you guys. So thanks for the 10% back. We'll take it. All right. So Virginia governor officially announces the removal of the Robert E. Lee statue. And so that is good. That is taking down one major piece of racism in our country. And also LA Mayor Eric Garcetti, he cuts $150 million from the LAPD. And he plans to reinvest that money in communities of color. So shouts out to him. All 57 members of the Buffalo Police Department have resigned today in support of the 2 officers that were suspended yesterday. These 2 officers were videotaped pushing down an elderly guy onto the ground, which made him crack his head, and he passed out. And he is really, really in terrible shape after that. And so they're supporting their officers, and they have all resigned. Now, let's be clear. They resigned from that special force that they were on, but they are still employed and getting paid by Buffalo County. So we want to say that did you guys see that Kanye West has come to Chicago and joined the protest? Kanye was seen marching in Chicago, supporting the efforts of the Black Lives Movement. All right. So shouts out to you, New York, because yesterday was your first day of no coronavirus deaths. So things are looking up, and you guys are planning to start.
I know. I'm so excited about that. I'm so excited about it.
Yes, first time. But on the flip side, there have been a new report of 21,000 new coronavirus cases. And so it is being urged by all medical personnel that everyone who has participated in protests, wherever you are, please don't get tested, because it is very, very important. And I'm going to wrap this up and just let you know that I just love our Black people, and the Black mayor of DC. She is not only showing up, but she is showing out. Okay.
Did you see this, Madeline? Did you see this?
Did you see this, Madeline? It is.
Oh, honey, yes, honey. Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
Painted on the street, leading straight into the White House in the huge, biggest yellow letters, and they also named the street right by the White House Black Lives Matter Plaza. So you know, and you guys know, Trump went to Twitter this morning. He is MAD, and guess who don't care? We don't care. Okay, put your cape on. He could put a cape on and be super mad because we are here for it. All right, we are. So shout out to her, and we stand in support of her and everything she does. So you know, I just love to see when Black people make effective change and make real efforts and movements. So that's all I got for you guys today. And it's been a good day. It's been a good day.
Yes. Thank you so much for that, precious Madeline. Thank you so much. I will talk to you soon, and thank you so much for doing this. I mean, I felt like we could really have a part 2 because I really have more
part 2. Like I feel like
let me know
like
when.
half of it.
Right. Like I was right.
I feel like it's more to it.
I'm here for it, guys.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. All right. See you next time.
See you guys. Bye bye.